Hi, I'm Craig Phillips, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build your own child seat out of hardwood just like this one. Suitable for indoors and outdoors any time of the year. Of course, you could construct it out of softwood if you preferred, however you would have to just get some larger timbers for the actual legs. Now the tools I'm going to be using are a chop saw. If you don't have a chop saw, you can use a hand saw. I'm going to use a rubber mallet, a chisel, tape measure, cordless drill, various sized drill bits, screws and panel pins, a good strong glue with a cork gun, jigsaw, sander, and also a bevel for setting up the angles that we're going to use on our chair. Now before you start to construct your item, it's always wise to do yourself a sketch and make some dimensions. So that is what my chair is going to look like. And I'm going to start the build by cutting some timbers for the legs and this batten along here, which will brace them together. Now the timber I'm going to be using is a hardwood. It's 80mm in depth and it's 20mm wide. And they're going to be 400mm high. And I want to get just a bit of a fraction of an angle at the bottom. So I've set my gauge on here about 110. So I'm not quite cutting on a 90 degrees. I'm just going to place that in and set it at 110. Now, of course, you'd have to use one of them if you were using your hand saw. Because I'm using my chop saw, I can adjust the settings on here. So that's the angle that I'm after. And when I sit that down flush, which will be on the floor of course, it'll bring my leg up just on the angle that I want it. And it's also continuing the same angle there for when the arm goes on here. And then of course the seat area will be there. So now I'm going to cut 3 more of them for 4 legs. So that's all my legs now cut to the angle that I need. What I will do now is give the edges a light sanding. So now all my legs are sanded down, I can start to put these into position and think about the brace to pull them together, which when we look back at our drawing is this section here. So this was one of the offcuts, which still has the angle on, of course, from that end. That should be flush with there where I want. But the length of this, I only want it about 570mm, which is about here. And I also want it to fit about 120mm. I'm going to place that on the mark, so it's 120 off there, flush with one end here. That is going to be my angle, which again will be 110 with the bevel. $120 from the bottom. 120 there from the bottom, nice and flush there, nice and flush there. That is perfect. 570, just what I wanted. So now I'm going to cut another 3 more, exactly the same size as that. So now I want to fix these together. However, I'm not going to fix it onto the top of that. I'm actually going to put it on the underside because I want to apply some screws right the way through here. And then once it's fixed together, I hold it up. That's the side that you'll see, so that you'll see no screw holes. Again, take a little pencil here. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on this section. I'm going to place that on top of it where my mark is. At 120, remember, from the floor. Flush on the one end. I'm going to drill a pilot hole in here. Then using a countersink, drill a little section in there. I'm going to use some screws. These are about 35 millimeters, and then I can drive that in. Once you've got the one screw holding it into position, drill a couple more clearance holes, countersink the top of them, then drive 2 further screws in, which will give you a good strong fixing. So that's one side in. Now the opposite side, I'm going to set that back about 40 millimeters from here, because the front of the chair, I want a bit of a hangover where it's on the underside of the knee. So just about 40 millimeters should be fine. Likewise with the rear leg, drill your 3 pilot holes with a 4 millimeter drill piece. Countersink the tops to help sink the screws into the surface. Remove the leg and don't forget to apply your glue. Reposition the leg and drive in 3 35 millimeter screws. Okay, so that now is our one side, 2 legs in, 1 brace across here. What I'm going to do now is cut another piece of this. Now this one isn't as thick as this one, 80 millimeters. It's going to be a little bit smaller, and that's going to go on the underside here where it's not seen, but it's going to add to the strength. Now I've cut the second brace down. This is 45 millimeters by 20 millimeters thick. Of course, I've cut it to the same length as the one we've put on here. I'm just lining it up on both ends here and here. I'll take my pencil, just mark over the top where and the bottom where I'm going to put my glue, and then drill some pilot holes in. 2 in each one, should be plenty. And then take my countersink over the top of the pilot holes. Now of course we mentioned earlier, if we were using softwood, we would have to certainly have some of these legs and these braces a little bit thicker. Where these are 20 millimeters thick, I'd probably go to about 30-35 millimeters if you're using a softwood. Now that's my pencil marks, so I'm just going to apply my grab adhesive just in between there, a little small thin amount. Place this back over the top, across my pencil lines, keeping it flush on here, and of course flush with the one below there, and drive them in with the screws. So that's one side of the legs now complete. All I have to do now is assemble the rest of the kit of parts to make another one of these exactly the same, which will go here. So that's my second leg. If I put them together, these should be, yep, perfect, same height, all in the same position. These are going to sit about 370 millimeters apart. Remember, it is only for a child. If you were doing it for an adult, of course, it would be a little bit wider, but I'm going to go 370. Now, there are going to be slats, of course, bridging across the center there, but I'm going to build the back frame, like a rectangular frame here first, and that will just hold these into position to make it easier for me to work on, and of course set my distance apart. I'm going to go back to my thinner timber again at 45 millimeters by 20 millimeters. Okay, that's my 460, the height of the back. I want it at 370. The timbers are 20 mil each, so 330 and my noggins in between, and I'm going to cut 3 of those. So that's my 3 sections, which will all fit together like this. I'm going to mark these up and then drill some pilot holes through the outside timber. Drill these pilot holes and here. Now, a good little tip to make sure you're going to drill that right the way through and get in the center of your timber is to place the thickness of the timber on there, which of course 20 millimeters. Draw a pencil line like that. Do the same on the opposite side. And then when you're drilling your pilot holes, you know you're going to go through the center from there. So you've got your two side sections here now, pilot holes in, two there, and two there. Now we will countersink them. Now the countersink of course is for sinking the heads of the screws so they go right the way in flush, or if not, a little bit deeper than the surface of the timber. So now I'm going to get some 40 millimeter screws and drive these in and fix this frame together. So that frame is now nice and solid. This will be sitting at this angle, and this will set the gap that I need for when I'm putting my slats across the seated area, and then of course the slats up the back too. Now fixing these together can be a little bit tricky when you're on your own, because remember we're going to be fixing this on an angle here to create the slope and back. So if you do have some clamps, clamp it down. Now this piece is going to be getting fixed on here, but I'm going to take a measurement of about 170 millimeters, say about 80, about there, 170, 180 millimeters, because when that is, if I keep that at about 180 mil there, set that back to the middle of this upright, I've got a nice kind of slope there, which I think will be comfortable for the child sitting on there, and then their back leaning up here, or some pillows on. So about 180 mil. I'll draw my pencil mark, drill 2 pilot holes. I'll also countersink them. This is where it gets a bit tricky. I'll place that across my pencil marks, covering up the glue. Of course, once the glue dries on all this, it will stiffen it all up, and the rest of the braces that I put in also stiffens it up. So I'll get my other leg, which is here, and hopefully this should fall at about 175. Yep, spot on 175, the same size as there. Now while that is clamped into position, the next piece I want to do is the same as these sides we cut earlier, but one bridging across the front, which is going to keep all this square, and that is standing at 450 millimeters wide. So I'm going to go a little bit longer. I'm actually going to go 460. Now I wanted this face bit here to be a little bit bigger because I wanted to sail past that end, only 5 millimeters, but I am going to sand all them edges down again so there's no splintery edges there. So I'm going to place this up and then just do myself a little pencil line where I'm going to pilot drill into the timbers. So that's 3 in each side. Again, I'll countersink these. And then when they're finished off then with an oil or a furniture wax, you won't actually see them. Again, a little bit of glue on here now. The screws I'm using here along this front are again about 38mm, these ones are, so they'll sail right the way through the 20mm timber and then bite nicely into the timber behind. So that's our outer frame now, all fixed together. It's holding the two side sections. The back is fixed into position. The glue's starting to dry there. The screws are in place, and that's in place. So we can take this off. We can start to see now the actual full frame of the seat, almost complete. The next stage now is to start cutting the back slats, which will sit up here and span across there. So that's 5 lengths, all cut around about 550mm in length. I just take a saw and put that there to stop them falling through. I'm going to get my saw, my jigsaw, and cut a bit of an arch across there because I want a bit of a nice round finish to the top of it. One, it'll look quite nice and also be a little bit safer for the children as well. We'll start by getting the centre one in place. A little bit of glue along here, a little bit of glue in the centre, and then also along the top. It's important where you get this centre one because it will dictate where the rest of them are going to be fitted, of course. Just clamp that together. Okay, now, normally I'm drilling the hole through there, countersinking it, and then driving a screw in, and I'm going to fill it later. Because we're going to have 5 slots on there, I don't want to have lots of big holes on there that I filled, of course, because it's quite visual. So I am going to use just these panel pins here. They are 45mm, so they're going to go through the 20mm and right into this back frame. But by just having a little small dot like that, for me, it's kind of fine once it's either painted or varnished or oil on there, furniture wax, whatever finish you want. So I'm going to put 2 in the top, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the bottom, and so on for the other 4 slats. That's the slats on the back now complete. The next stage is I'm going to trim along the top of here to create a nice curve by drawing it freehand. So I've made a mark in the centre of the centre slat, and I've also put a little mark here which is about 30mm over the frame here, and same again that side. And what I'm going to try to do is just freehand draw a bit of an arch, and then I'll cut that with a jigsaw next. And I have left it, as I say, 30mm above there, because if you don't get it quite right, you can just always cut a little small bit off and sand it down. Okay, so to cut this, I'm going to clamp it on the desk, propping it up because of the length of the jigsaw blade, like this. I can cut across there then. If I get a clamp, I'm going to put a little block on it here to stop it sliding down, and hopefully that'll hold it nice and secure into position for me. Place your jigsaw flat onto the surface. Start the blade and slowly follow your pencil line, not forgetting to wear your safety specs and dust mask. Okay, that I think looks about right. Whilst it's clamped down into position, I'm just going to get my sander and do the same. So that's got it. So now the back section is complete. The next stage is to unclamp it and start cutting the slats and fixing them down to the seat. So that's my sections all cut down now. One's going to fit right in the centre of here and here, where these legs are going up. And then I've already sanded the edges of these, the same as what we did with the legs. They're going to be fitted across the front there. Now the length of them, I've measured my frame, the outer edges, and then just left 10mm overhang just on them edges there, just so it looks a little bit better. And then once it's sanded off and you've rounded off all those edges, it's just going to look perfect on there. Now again, we will be leaving a small gap in between them like we did on the back. Perfect. So again, I'm going to take my pencil, because we do have to glue and nail these down. I'm just going to make a little mark where I want to put my nails in there, because I will have to drill another little tiny pilot hole, just a 1mm pilot hole. This will help drive the panel pins in without bending them. Again, apply your grab adhesive glue across all parts of the frame where the seat slats will connect. Place them into position, setting out your gaps to match the back slats of your chair, and start to nail in your pins through the pilot holes, firmly securing each slat into the frame. Where the two front legs continue through the frame, you'll need to cut and fix down small pieces of slat to finish the look. So that's the slats now completed on the seat. The next stage is the arm across here. Now, I'm going to be having one piece right across the top there, but to stabilise that, I've cut another piece that we use for the back frame behind here, 45mm by 20mm, and I've just spliced the edge on a slight angle. Now that's going to be glued and screwed into the top of the front leg and also fixed in to the top of the back leg. However, this slat is standing proud a little bit there, so that needs to be notched out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move that along here. I'm going to place that at the top of there. Mark a little pencil mark, top and bottom. And then I can get my saw. I'm going to saw that out. Only the depth of this, probably 12-15mm, and then take a small chisel and actually chisel that section out. And that's a lovely, nice, tight fit in there. Now, a little bit of glue on the back of that. I'll screw it in from there to grab it, and then also I'll pop a few screws in on the inside of the top of this leg to bite this. So now I'm going to use a 3mm drill bit, and I'm going to drill in about 50 or 60mm through all three pieces here. So it goes through this wooden frame, through the leg, and then into the underside of the handle. Just countersink that. A little bit of glue down the back there, and then drive the screw in. Oh, really hard that. 65mm screw right the way through all three pieces. We'll grab that nice and solid. Of course, the glue will dry now. It's ready for the handle. I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. Again, using the handsaw, I'm cutting into the back slat about 15 to 20mm, nipping this out with my chisel. By fixing this smaller timber here, it will add to the overall strength and stability of the chair, as well as holding the armrest into position. So the two final cuts now are the tops of the arms, which will sit on here, and you can see I've created a little arch shape here, and in the back end of it I've cut it square and then mited it at 45 just on there. So I'll show you how I do that now. You can use a tin of paint on there, a jam jar, anything you want, but once you've cut one, use that as a template to actually cut your other. You can cut it with a jigsaw and then sand it down. So I'm just going to round it there with my pencil. I'll do a line across there where it's going. I'm going to come round that side to actually cut that. I'll clamp it on this end. So that's got a nice soft curve now all the way around there, and it should be pretty much, yeah, exactly the same as that one. So I'm pleased with that. Next stage now, I'm going to chop this down and then just cut off those corners. So that's what I'm after. That shape there, square across there, and 2 at 45. So again, I'm going to get my sander and just take the rough edge off there. Perfect. So now that is the same as that end, and also these are the same. We're ready to mount them on the top. Now, of course, we notched out to this top slat up there. What we are going to do now is offer that up and actually notch it out the top of the arm piece. About 50mm overhang here, so it's the same on both sides. So these are my 2 angles here. I have to cut down them, notch that out. Now hopefully this should fit. Perfect. I'm going to do the same for the opposite side, and then all I need to do is apply lots of glue on here, drill a couple more pilot holes in, and drive in my small panel pins on there, and then it's ready to either varnish, you could cover it with a furniture wax, you could cover it with an oil, or you could even paint it. The choice is yours. So that's how easy it is to build your own child's hardwood chair, suitable for indoors and outdoors. Hopefully I've inspired you to build your own. But if you're looking for more inspiration and more how-to videos, please visit the website silverlinetools.com.